It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Holy cow, guys. What a week we've had with this election and everything that's been going on as a result of that. I want to talk this morning about the impact of the election on the housing market. It's something that really hasn't been discussed a lot by either candidate. Their housing policy really hasn't come out this time around, mainly because they probably don't see it as a popular topic that needs to be quote-unquote fixed. So we're going to talk at length about what's going to happen with, either candidate winning the presidency. And I'm live and I'm in the studio this morning. So if you guys have questions, you have comments, anything real estate related at all, it does not have to be about politics. Although I will just say this as a quick disclaimer. And I feel like I need to say this. If you are a Facebook predator, you are the type of person that loves to light somebody up in the comments section of Facebook and spout your political beliefs and not really debate somebody, but just try to instill in them that they're a bad person for what they believe in, then I'm just telling you right now, don't call the show today. I don't want to tolerate it. But the number here is 843-556-1250. I would love to talk with you. I'd love to get your opinion. I'd love to understand what you're thinking and feeling. And, I'll tell you that a lot of the people that we're talking to right now are on hold right now. A lot of people are saying, well, we're going to wait to see what happens with the result of the election. And I get that. And I think for a lot of people, the honest truth here is that the election actually doesn't really impact their interest or ability to buy or sell real estate. But so many people right now are so emotionally, mentally drained with this election that they can't deal with buying or selling a house. They can't deal with the stress associated with buying or selling a house right now. They're way too wrapped up in the election. And so I want to talk this morning about what I think is going to happen as a result of the election, the impact that's going to have on our market. I want to talk through a few different scenarios. I want to give you guys an understanding of what Trump's policies are, what he's done, what Biden's going to do if and what seems like likely when he gets elected. And I'm going to have that kind of boiled down to how that impacts us here in Charleston. Are all these things that we're reading and absorbing and being susceptible to going to make any difference whatsoever to us here in, good old Charleston, South Carolina and our real estate market? So the number here in the studio, if you want to call in, is 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. Now, if you want to reach me personally and talk about real estate, my phone number, my personal cell, is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, which, by the way, we've just done a lot of work to. It looks great. I'm obsessed with our website. I think it looks awesome. Listingsincharleston.com. A lot of great info on there. Find out more about what your home is worth. Find out more about our incentives on my real estate team. All the different things we do to help you along the way from buying, selling, investing in real estate. Learn more about what we do, what we sell, how we sell it. Listen to 8 years of real estate shows that I've done here on WTMA. All that and more. Listingsincharleston.com. So let's talk about this election. Let's just get into it. And for those of you that have listened to the show for years, you guys know that I'm not overly political, or at least on this show and in my business life, I tend not to be overly political. And obviously there's a good reason for that. And, don't get me wrong, I have my own opinions. I fully embrace the person that I voted for. I'm happy with my decision. I'm not necessarily happy with, frankly, either candidate. Let's just put that out there. I'm not a huge Trump supporter. I'm not a Biden supporter. I often ask myself, is this really the best we've got? Are these two people really the best people to run our country? And I know a lot of people feel the same way. So what's going on here with this election? How does it impact the real estate market? Really, if you look at it, this is kind of what it's boiled down to at this point. If you vote Republican, you're voting to maintain the status quo. But if you vote Democrat, you're voting to expand opportunities for minorities and low to middle income households as it relates to housing. So let's first kind of ask this question and answer it. What typically happens to a real estate market in an election year? And research for this was conducted by housing consultancy firm Myers Research, which gathered data from 13 different presidential elections and then reported their findings. And historically, we see about a 10% decrease in new home sales from October to November in non-election years, which is just simply the seasonal adjustment of closings or sales on a national level. But in election years, we see a 15% decrease in new home sales in November, which is the median result of that research, by the way. And so obviously, people just are a little more cautious during the month of the election every 4 years. But this cautiousness is temporary. And it really, what it does is it creates pent-up demand that causes a surge in activity the first part of the following year. In fact, that same study from Myers Research shows that the year after an election year is the best year of that 4-year cycle for housing. And frankly, the impact is too short and too small to have a real impact on pricing in the short term. So overall, I mean, really, if you think about this, if the economy continues to improve, if unemployment numbers decrease, and interest rates remain as low as they are, then the real estate market is going to be just fine. It will be fine. It will be vibrant. It will continue to excel. It will continue to be a driver economically. But what are some of the specific issues that we need to be aware of? You know, what has Trump done over the past 4 years? And what would we see if, and like I said, likely when Biden gets elected? And I know you guys are a lot of you are probably in the same boat that I am, which is that I just want this to be over with. I want this to be done. I want the decision to be made. Let's move on with our lives. We'll figure out a way, because that is the American way. And life will go on. You know, I keep, remembering these videos and things like that where, Trump got elected and Clinton didn't, and people are out there and they're just crying. They're just crying their eyes out. They're sobbing. We'll figure it out, guys. I mean, it might not be the answer, the solution that you're looking for, but we'll figure it out. Life will go on. So let's kind of look at what some of these things are that really haven't been brought up a lot over the course of the past several months as Biden and Trump have really gotten into it. And one of the key debates in the run-up to this election has been the status of the Affirmatively Furthering Fair House Act, which I know is a mouthful, AFFH, Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act, which was basically a policy put out by the Obama administration that Trump ditched, by the way, in late July of this year. But under this law, communities receiving federal housing funds were required to assess patterns of housing discrimination and segregation. They were then required to implement plans to eliminate it. Things like constructing more low-income housing. Something, by the way, that we really struggle with here in Charleston. I mean, frankly, in a pretty big way. And so what's interesting is if you look at a quote from Ben Carson, he says, and I quote, "After reviewing thousands of comments on the proposed changes to the Affirmatively Furthering Fair House Act, we found it to be unworkable and ultimately a waste of time for localities to comply with, too often resulting in funds being steered away from communities that need them the most. Instead, the Trump administration has established programs like opportunity zones that are driving billions of dollars of capital into underserved communities where affordable housing exists, but opportunity does not." And so what Trump did is he put something in place called opportunity zones, which is a policy to encourage new development and invest in poor, struggling neighborhoods. So things like, affordable rental complexes and retail centers, they receive tax incentives now as a way to spur development. Something that I think has worked very well. the thing Trump has done has moved to privatize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which, by the way, back about 50% of all mortgages, a little more than that. He also capped property income and sales tax deductions at $10,000, which, it worked really well for middle America, but obviously it hurts some of the higher end markets where, their real estate taxes alone are over $10,000. Trump also lowered the mortgage interest deduction. They can write up $750,000 of their combined primary and vacation homes. Previous limit was $1 million. And it didn't affect the majority of homeowners, but it did hurt the folks that live in coastal areas that have more expensive real estate. And so this obviously kind of goes against the grain of the popular opinion that Trump's plans really specifically favor the wealthy. And so that's been what Trump has done, really, as it relates to housing. And then, of course, we could talk about all the economics. And, I really don't want to get into you knew about Corona. You knew that it was going to be devastating. You delayed mask ordinance. All those things that, yes, they had an impact on the economy. We're here to talk about real estate, folks. Now, if you want to call into the studio, you want to chat with me about this, you want to tell me your opinion, how it impacts housing, I'd love to hear from you. Maybe you just have a question about the real estate market in general. You want to understand the process, anything real estate related at all. I would love to hear from you guys. The number here in the studio is 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. Now, again, if you want to reach out to me personally and talk about real estate, you're interested in hiring my real estate team, a team of 22 people that sells, we've sold over $500 million worth of real estate here in Charleston. We'd love to earn your business. My personal number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or visit us online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And you can always send me an email, too, if you prefer not to chat over the phone. Brian, that's Brian with an I, at brianbeattyteam.com. Stick around, folks, for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. 1250 WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm live, I'm in the studio, and I'm waiting for your call. The number here is 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. If you guys have a question about the real estate market, you want to understand what's happening right now, you want to kind of get an idea of what I think is going to happen next year, maybe you've got a specific question or a story, happy to answer that, happy to chat with you guys. The number here again, 843-556-1250. Now, again, if you want to reach out to me personally, you want to talk about real estate, you intend on buying, selling, investing in real estate, maybe you just have a question. Maybe you just need a good, HVAC guy or a contractor of sorts. We've got a guy. We got a guy for pretty much everybody that you need. The number to call, my cell phone number, is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or you can always visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Now, before we get back into this, I got to tell you kind of a funny story that happened to me this week. So, talked to a guy over the phone. He wants to sell his house. Conversation goes really well. Very nice, polite guy, and a nice home. So I get there, and he answers the door, and I'm wearing my mask. I've got on my gloves. I always ask to take my shoes off. If he wants me to take my shoes off. We've been very careful throughout this entire pandemic. And he says, well, before you come in, let me ask you a question. Trump or Biden? First thing he says when I get to his house. First thing. And I'm a little taken off guard. I'm not going to lie. I was not expecting that. And so I said, neither. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I don't think either are going to buy your house. But that's what I'm here for. Let's talk about the process and the market, and let's see if we can work together. And he goes, okay, that was a good one. Come on in. And, it's just kind of like, why would I show up waving a Clemson flag on my car to somebody's house if they turn out to be a Carolina fan. It's just, you just can't do some of this stuff. If you want to have a healthy real estate business, and I don't certainly want to offend anybody with my political affiliations, but the fact of the matter is, it really doesn't matter when it comes time to hire me to sell your house. And, he's turned out to be a great client, and we kind of at times go back and forth with each other, but in a playful way, and it's fun. And look, I'm the kind of person where, fight or flight, I'm fight almost all the time. I like addressing things head on. I'm not scared to be confrontational. I'm not the type of person that beats around the bush. I've built my business, frankly, a big business, a very reputable business here in the Lowcountry, on telling people the truth, on being honest with people, on having integrity. And let's just call it like it is. There are a lot of people in real estate that use the smoke and mirrors. They use the cloak and dagger to earn business. And I'm just not that way. I'm never going to be that way. When you hire me to help you sell a house, or you hire us to help you buy a house, we're going to tell you the truth. We're going to give you reasonable expectations to operate within, so that we can make this an enjoyable and profitable and successful experience for you. But we are not the type of person or type of company that's going to use every incentive in the book to try and attract you to do business with us. That's just not how we roll. We're just really good at what we do. And yes, we have a bunch of incentives that help you, the consumer, benefit from our relationships and frankly benefit from the volume of business that we do. So if you want to reach out to us, you want to talk about real estate, again, my number is 843-400-8009, 400-8009, or go to listingsincharleston.com or send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. But there's, I guess, a little soapbox moment. Let's get back into politics. Woo! Haven't had enough of that this week. Let's talk about what Biden's all about as it relates to housing, his policies. What can we expect if Biden becomes president? And, by the way, I wonder if the New York Times is going to call him Mr. Biden, like they call Trump Mr. Trump, or if it's going to be President Trump or President Biden. Interesting little side note there. Anyways, so if you look at Biden's plan, he's indicated that he wants to bring back the AFFH. And if you guys were listening, last segment, AFFH stands for the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Policy, which is essentially a policy that requires any community receiving federal housing funds to assess patterns of housing discrimination and segregation, and then they're required to implement plans to eliminate it, like, as an example, constructing more low-income housing. And so Biden wants to bring that back. Trump got rid of it back in July. He went for something called opportunity zones. I don't necessarily want to repeat myself with stuff I've already said, but for those of you that have just tuned in, listingsincharleston.com is the best way to get all these radio shows. And we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, anywhere you want to look, really, we're there. Just search for the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. But anyways, Biden wants to bring this back. He has a $640 billion housing plan. And this was released back in February, so it's not new. But as part of that proposal that he's put together, he also has a down payment credit of up to $15,000 for first-time home buyers. If you guys remember back in the day, we used to have an $8,000 home buyer tax credit, and I think there was a $6,500 version of that as well. So this $15,000 credit for down payment, I think it's in the form of a tax credit, by the way, but additional down payment support would go to certain members of the workforce, like teachers, first responders, hometown heroes, as they're referred to. And while I think that's a really noble concept and frankly, a pretty good idea to get folks that are maybe struggling financially into the market, I guess I have to ask myself the question of, is this the right fix? It provides a means to purchase a home, but their ability to purchase a home is a function of their down payment, their income, their debt, their location, and the availability of affordable housing. So, frankly, I kind of like the idea of it. A lot of people are struggling, but it doesn't fix the overall economics. It doesn't fix the fact that people are not managing their money well. It doesn't fix the fact that they're late on their payments. And as a result of that, they now have a lower credit score. And I'll tell you what, I don't think that, nationally speaking, credit scores are going up right now. I think they're going down. Frankly, we're having a lot of conversations with folks that their credit isn't high enough to qualify for a mortgage. And so anybody that has credit issues that we talk to, we put them in touch with one of our lenders. He's got a fantastic program for credit repair. We check in with them. We stay in touch with them. We continue to add value. We don't treat them any differently. We don't say, hey, sorry, your credit sucks. We're not going to work with you. We help these folks repair their credit and get into a position where they can buy a house, which is their goal. And I'm just here to tell you that the vast majority of real estate agents just don't spend time on folks like that because they're not qualified to buy a house right now and they see them as a waste of time. Hard truth, but reality. We want to help people. We want to help people through their situations. We want to put them in touch with the right people. We want to compile resources that people that contact us can plug into, whether it be credit repair, whether it's a contractor, whether it's a really good lender, closing attorney, appraiser, inspector, so on and so forth. I mean, we've got the dream team here in Charleston, and it's a function of being in this business for 15 years and selling over 1,000 homes and over $500 million in real estate and just working on our craft, which is helping people buy, sell, and invest in real estate. So if you need any help, feel free to give me a call, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or go to listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And if you want to call into the show, again, I'm in the studio right now. Would love to hear from you guys. If you have any questions about the real estate market, you want to tell me what you think is going to happen as a result of either election, then let's have a chat about it. But, like I said, the disclaimer at the beginning of the show, I'm not going to tolerate people that are Facebook predators or people that are just going to try and lace into folks because of their views and opinions. We can have a debate and be respectful about it without being so aggressive, which, I have to turn off Facebook sometimes because I get so tired of the people that it's not a debate. It's not a discussion. It's an attack. You're not challenging somebody's views, which I think is perfectly fine. It's what makes the world go round. But when you try to convince somebody that they're a bad person for what they believe in, then I shut it down right then and there. So if you guys want to call into the show, let's have a chat. Let's be respectful about it. Would love to hear from you guys. 843-556-1250, 843-556-1250. When I come back, I'm going to talk more about Biden's plan for the housing market, how that's going to impact us here in the Low Country, and more, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues right here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Broadcast Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday mornings at 10 on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, folks, to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. Hey, I always like to take a little bit of time and just say thank you to those of you that listen to the show and rely on the information within it to help you better understand the real estate market. And I'm sure that I'm just one of many sources that you go to for information on what's happening with housing. But for those of you that trust this program and rely on the information within it, and of course call me, and whether it be asking a simple question about the market or just needing help finding the right person to do the right thing for your house, a contractor, HVAC guy, whatever. Or, of course, those of you that call us because you want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate and you end up working with myself and my team, just want to say that I appreciate it. So if you guys want to reach out to me, you want to have a discussion about real estate, maybe it's just a simple call, a planning call, something to understand what to look for and the right questions to ask as you're in the preparation phase of buying, selling, and investing in real estate, or whether you need to buy or sell a house right now, or maybe you need to sell immediately. I mean, we do cash offers on homes. We'll buy them right there on the spot. But the number to call is 843-400-8009. That's my cell, 843-400-8009. Or you can always visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. So Again, I'm in the studio. We're taking your calls. I've got the legendary John Quincy on standby. 843-556-1250 is the number here in the studio. 843-556-1250. So let's get back to it, and we're going to finish up this discussion. Yes, we're talking politics. I know that's something you don't hear a lot from me on this program, but we're going to talk about it, and we're going to get through it, and everything's going to be okay. I'm okay. Everybody's going to be okay. All right, so we're talking about Biden's plan, right? What are his policies? How's that going to impact housing? And so we talked about his idea of bringing back the AFFH, which stands for the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Act, which I know is a mouthful. He wants to bring that back. He's got a $640 billion housing plan. But in addition to that, which also includes a $15,000 down payment tax credit for first-time home buyers. In addition to that, and I'm going to be honest, guys, I voted for Trump, okay? I'm putting it out there, but I do like some of his ideas. The question is how we're going to pay for it. But anyways, he's proposed creating a public credit agency that would help raise the scores for people by considering things like rental payment history and utility bills being paid on time. It would help more people qualify for mortgages and establish positive credit with lower fees and rates. Now, when it comes to renters that are struggling to make ends meet, just like the real estate market has seen an increase in pricing, we've also seen an increase in rental rates. And so when it comes to renters that are struggling right now, the former VP, Biden, would fully fund Section 8 vouchers that allow every low-income American who qualifies for the program to receive that assistance. And I own rental properties. I help a bunch of people build wealth in real estate through real estate ownership, whether it's investing in real estate as a buy and hold to turn it into a rental, whether it's flipping. We've worked with well over 100 investors. We've done probably hundreds of transactions with investors where of course, we help people buy, sell real estate every day, but people hire us as well to really analyze and interpret opportunity to make money for themselves, to generate supplemental income, to flip a property. And so I own many rental properties. I flip real estate. I'm also a private money lender, so other investors will come to me, which is how most of them do it, by the way. Any show that you watch on TV where they're going and they're buying a bunch of homes and flipping them, they're not using their own money. They're using an investor's money. And so usually what they'll do is they'll borrow that money. They'll pay a little bit up front, and then they'll pay high interest over the course of that short-term loan. And they just factor it into the financials of the deal. And if everything works out, then, hey, they're going to make some money. The person lending out the money is going to make money on their money. It's a win-win situation. I will tell you, though, that I've been doing this for, I want to say 6 years. Private money lending, there's only been one time over the course of dozens of deals where somebody borrowed money from me and then they didn't pay me back. They didn't make their rental payments or they didn't make their interest payments. And so, when you go to closing and you buy a house and you're sitting there with the closing attorney, one of their favorite little sayings is, well, here's the mortgage. Here's a 17-page document. You got initial at the bottom of every one. And basically the gist behind it is if you pay, you stay. If you don't, you won't. Well, this person didn't pay. And as much as it sucked, I had to foreclose on this person. I had to kick that family out of that house. It was heartbreaking. It was tough. But it was a business decision. I loaned that person money. They decided not to pay back. And I had to take back the property, sell it. And I'm really thankful to say that I closed on that deal yesterday, which has been the bane of my existence for the past year and a half. A year and a half that process took to take back that property, put it back under my ownership, and then sell it. And even with all that, I still made a little money on the deal, but not much. Certainly would have preferred to have the cash to put toward other deals. So, and we're still seeing them out there, by the way. And I know I'm going off on a little sidebar here, but we're still seeing deals. We're still helping investors. We've got a great one right now where the investor is going to make multiple six figures on the deal. It's because we bought it right. It's because we're seeking out those opportunities. But anyways, let's get back to what Biden's going to do to the housing market here if he gets elected, what his plans are. And so I was mentioning that, and kind of the whole reason for that sidebar is that I have rented out my property to Section 8 renters before. It's subsidized payments, guaranteed payments. Those payments are always on time, which is great. The challenge is that when you have people that are really just using the system and abusing the system at times, some of those folks can be real pieces of work. So I was renting a property to somebody that was, the payments were coming through Section 8, which is great because they're on time, they're in full. I don't have to chase people down to get my money. I mean, everything's working out well. But those folks, because they're not paying anything, they don't really have any pride of quote unquote ownership. This person absolutely trashed my rental. It was disgusting. And I've seen a lot of stuff, guys. Whenever somebody invites me over, they're like, "Oh, please excuse the mess." And I really do appreciate that. But I tell you what, you could not mess up your home enough and beat some of the things that I've seen in my life when walking through people's properties. There have been some times where I have literally had to turn down business because I cannot help that person because they are such hoarders. And I'm telling you folks, some of the stuff I've seen is just, frankly, it's disgusting. I'm not going to say it on air. But however bad you think your home is, I promise you I've seen worse. Let's just leave it at that. So anyways, Biden wants to fully fund Section 8 vouchers so that every low-income American who qualifies for that program receives the assistance. And about a quarter of the households eligible right now for these vouchers, they just don't get them because there's just not enough to go around. Along similar lines, Biden would also offer low-income renters a tax credit so that they can pay or only pay 30% of their income on housing and utilities. Now, I like the idea of fully funding Section 8, but giving somebody basically a bonus, I don't know if I agree with that. What do you guys think? You call into the show. I'd love to hear what your opinions are. 843-556-1250. 843-556-1250 is the number here in the show. Really, what ultimately ends up being achievable will depend in large part for either candidate on how quickly and fully the economy can recover, both during and, of course, after COVID. And the big question, of course, is how much of this plan that Biden has will get through Congress and actually get approved and funded. I mean, that's really the big question here. And so, that's kind of what both parties are spouting. That's, I think, the impact, or at least the policy. Now, the impact, a little tough to say right now. What do we know, or what do we have reason to believe is a constant right now? I think one of those things is interest rates. I don't think interest rates are going up anytime soon. They've said as much. I think they're going to stay in the low threes. I mean, we've seen interest rates, I kid you not, guys, like 2.75%. That's insane. So right now there is a financial incentive to buy real estate. There's also a financial incentive to sell real estate because inventory is so darn low, especially here in Charleston, that, when I go to somebody's house and I'm showing them everything that's on the market under contract that is sold, so that we can provide an analysis, tell them what their home is worth, how long it's going to be on the market before it sells, what the difference is between the asking price and the sales price. Really, we do a very good job of helping people understand the market, setting expectations, going through that entire process. And I'm not one of those agents that has a pre-printed report of somebody's house, a predetermined price before I get there. I have the comparables, and I sit right next to them, and we look at the data together. I help them understand why I believe it's worth what it's worth. And the reality is this: I don't set the price. The seller doesn't set the price. The market sets the price. And we have to look at the difference between, what we think it's worth and what it's going to sell for, and what a buyer's willing to pay for it. And so we've got a caller. Scott, I'm going to bring you on the show. How you doing, man?
Hey, great, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for calling in.
I had a question, a little bit of a clarification on the Biden affordable housing plan you just mentioned, specifically the tax credit piece. How would that work? Would that be like a tax refund, or do you know about that?
Well, so it's a down payment tax credit of up to $15,000 for first-time home buyers. And so, like back when they were doing the first-time home buyer tax credit, what was that? That was a little over a decade ago, I think. It was like 2009. That credit would show up right there on the settlement statement when you bought that house. I mean, it was part of the purchase. It wasn't, you didn't have to wait for taxes to be filed in order to receive that quote unquote credit. So I imagine that's the same thing that's going to apply here. I don't know the logistics of it. I don't know whether that's something that is credited to you at the time in which you purchase the property, or if it's something that you get refunded when you go to file your taxes. My guess would be the former. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, the people need the money for the down payment to buy the house, so it would make sense that it's given to the buyer at the time in which they make the purchase.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that clarifies it.
All right, great, man. Well, hey, have a great weekend. Thanks for calling in. All right, guys, we're going to take another break, and when we come back for the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show, we're going to talk about the market, a few other quick things. And if you want to call in, 843-556-1250 is the number here in the studio, 556-1250. Stick around for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, folks, to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. If you guys want to reach out to me, you've got a few minutes left to call into the program and ask your questions. State your comments, state your case on what's going on here with the election, how it's going to impact the housing market. 843-556-1250 is the number here in the studio, 556-1250. And if you want to reach out to me personally and have a discussion about the real estate market, you want to talk about what you intend on doing this year, next year, maybe you actually need to buy or sell a home right now, we'd love to help you in any way we can. Our number is 843-400-8009. That's 400-8009. Or visit us online. Check us out. See what we're all about. Listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. So I want to kind of finish this discussion. Really, it's been a political show. We've talked about what's going on and how it's going to impact the housing market nationally. But let's kind of boil this down to what's going on here in Charleston. How does this affect us in our small little corner of the world? And so when you look at, and I was mentioning before we went on a break, what do we think is going to remain the same? And I think one of the big things that's going to remain the same is interest rates. I don't see interest rates going up. Basically, any report, any expert, even the Federal Reserve themselves have said that they're not going up anytime soon. So we're going to have low interest rates. We're going to have this financial incentive of sorts for people to buy a house. And yes, prices are going up, and yes, inventory is still way down. We've got a little over 3,000 homes available for sale right now in Charleston. And that's basically half of what was available this time last year. And when you get into November and you get into December, the seasonality of our market is such that, yes, there is a decrease in the number of new listings that hit the market this time of year. Now that, there just aren't a lot of people that are super thrilled about moving during the holidays. And so for those of you that are opportunistic sellers, which is the majority of our clients right now, by the way, they don't have to sell. They don't have to buy. But they see an opportunity because nothing else is available in their neighborhood. They're seeing how much these homes are selling for, and they're saying, if I could sell my house for something like that, I'd do it because, frankly, I've been here way more over the past several months than I ever intended on being inside my house, and I'm out of here. I want to move. This doesn't work for me anymore. And so they're looking out and they're saying, hey, well, yeah, I would love to move because I can get a fantastic price for my house. I got all this equity in my house, but where am I going to go? There's just not a lot out there right now. The thing that we have done this year on my real estate team that we've done for years and years and years, but we've really had to put some emphasis on it this year, is the extreme organization of our database of people that we communicate with about real estate. We have hired a company in California and we've had them for 2 years now, and what they have done with our business, with our ability to proactively target people demographically by real estate interest, by online behavior, and then organize our database and interpret the activity of people within our database so that we know who we should be calling and not, is incredible. And so what we've done this year, really more so than we've done in years past, is get really good about when we have a conversation with somebody, say, well, yeah, I'm thinking about buying in 6 months from now, or I'm going to sell my house, 6 months from now. We have a very easy and efficient way now of saying, hey, I just had a conversation with a buyer and they're looking to buy a house in, say, Mount Pleasant in 4 months. And here's the area that they're looking in. Here's the price range that they're looking in. Who have I talked to recently that would be interested in selling their house in around that same amount of time? And because they don't want to sell right now, their house isn't on the market. It's not publicly available. It's not something you can go on Zillow and find. And that's really one of the big values that people selling a lot of real estate bring to the table right now. Their database, their ability to find you something and inform you about it before it becomes public knowledge. So, if you're one of those folks that, I'd like to sell my house, I'm just struggling to find inventory, or if you're looking right now and you're just not excited about what you see, and every time you do see something that's of interest, it sells in a day. Those folks, those are the kinds of conversations that we want to have with you. That's what gets us excited. That's why we're working so darn hard to organize and interpret and analyze our database, so that we can be that agent that plays the role of matchmaker. It's so easy for any agent out there to just throw up a home on the MLS and then wait for that listing to syndicate to Zillow and Realtor.com and all these different websites, and then they basically kick their feet up on their desk and they wait for other agents to show their listing. I mean, that's not only the perception that a lot of people have about real estate agents, but it's also the truth about a lot of real estate agents, which in this, instance, your perception is frankly reality for a lot of agents. We don't want to be that way. We are different. And we've invested a lot of time and energy and money to being different. So inventory, incredibly low. One of the best ways for you to find out what's actually happening in the market right now is to have a conversation with an agent that has a lot of conversations with people. And so we want to help you with that. So we know interest rates are going to stay low. Inventory is an issue. New construction, frankly, can't keep up with demand. We've got so many people moving here from, frankly, all corners of the world. A lot of folks from the Northeast, though. A lot of folks from the Northeast. And I know a lot of people are seeing Charleston change. They're seeing this change happen. They're seeing this melting pot of people that, in their opinion, is diluting the South. It's diluting our small, quaint little town. And I would say that to an extent, you're right. Yeah, it is becoming a little more diverse. And some people don't like that. And so that's why they're moving to areas like Greenville, and they're saying, hey, I've been in Charleston for a long time, but it's not the Charleston I grew up in, or it's not the Charleston I came here for, and so I'm out of here. And so I know that's a shame to some folks, but it is what it is. So I guess wrapping this all up, buttoning this all up, our real estate market, at least locally, I think is going to be just fine. I expect that it will be very close to what you guys have experienced over the course of the last year or so, but I do expect inventory to ramp up a little bit. Yes, there will be some people that are hurt financially that need to go ahead and get their home on the market and get out of that house and move on and kind of hit the reset button. But if you guys want to chat about real estate, you want to hire a great real estate agent, give me a call, 843-400-8009. That's 400-8009, or go to listingsincharleston.com. You guys have a great weekend.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.